College football is absolutely wild right now, and every once in a while a story pops up that makes everyone stop, rewind, and say, wait, he did what? And that's exactly what happened when former Ohio State quarterback Devin Brown made one of the most shocking transfer decisions of the modern nil era, a move that has fans, analysts, and even longtime reporters doing double takes, because instead of chasing the biggest bag or the brightest spotlight, Brown chose a completely different path, leaving the chaos of Power 4 recruiting behind to transfer to the Weber State Wildcats, and in doing so, turning down opportunities from the Ohio State Buckeyes, the defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers, the Boston College Eagles, the BYU Cougars, and the Washington Huskies, a list that sounds like a playoff bracket instead of rejected offers, and what makes it even crazier is that some of those schools were reportedly dangling nil deals worth up to $800,000, yet Brown walked away from all of it to play FCS football in front of about 17,000 fans, a decision that left Doug Robinson of the Deseret News openly stunned, calling it one of the most unbelievable quarterback stories he's covered in years, especially in a time when players are often criticized for chasing money over development, because in this case Brown quite literally chose $2,000 over nearly $1 million, and the reason wasn't complicated or mysterious. It was personal, it was emotional, and it was rooted in trust, because Weber State's new head coach is Eric Kajar, the same coach who once mentored Brown back in high school at Corner Canyon, and for Brown that relationship meant more than prestige, depth charts, or nil zeros, a move that on the surface looks like a step backward but might actually be the most calculated decision of his entire career, because while the Power 4 would have given him exposure, none of those programs were guaranteeing him what he wanted most. A real chance to be the guy, to start, to lead, and to put real film on tape, and that's where this story gets even more interesting, because despite the narrative that going FCS kills your NFL dreams, history says otherwise, and Brown knows it, as quarterbacks from smaller programs still find their way into showcase events like the Senior Bowl and the East-West Shrine Bowl, with even Division II players getting real looks, including Tyson Bagent, who went from Shepherd University to starting games for the Chicago Bears, proving that if you can play, scouts will find you no matter the logo on your helmet, and Brown's resume already includes time at both Ohio State and Cal, a championship ring, and years of development behind elite competition, meaning if he lights up the Big Sky Conference, the league won't ignore him just because he's playing on Saturdays in Utah instead of Saturdays on national primetime TV. And when you look ahead to Weber State's schedule, this storyline gets even juicier, because Brown won't be hiding in anonymity, especially with matchups that include teams coached by stars like Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, which means cameras, headlines, and NFL evaluators will absolutely be paying attention, making this season less about where Brown plays and more about how he plays. And while all of that was unfolding, Ohio State fans were also watching another Buckeye make waves on the national stage, as safety Caleb Downs is rapidly becoming one of the most talked about prospects in the upcoming NFL draft, with many evaluators believing he's not just the best defensive player available but potentially a future Hall of Famer. And while safeties don't always go early, the buzz around Downs suggests he won't be slipping far, with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller making it clear on ESPN that if Downs somehow falls to pick number 10, the Cincinnati Bengals should sprint the card to the podium, especially given their struggles at safety since losing Jesse Bates, and the idea of Downs teaming up with franchise quarterback Joe Burrow has Ohio football fans dreaming big, with Miller pointing out that Downs can line up anywhere on the field, erase mistakes, play deep, play in the box, and instantly elevate a defense, a sentiment echoed by none other than Nick Saban, whose endorsement alone carries legendary weight. And when you step back and connect the dots, what you're really seeing here are two very different paths to football greatness. One player betting on elite development and draft position from a powerhouse program, and another betting on loyalty, opportunity, and personal growth at a smaller school, but both chasing the same ultimate goal. And that's what makes college football right now so fascinating, because the traditional blueprint is being rewritten in real time, and Devin Brown's choice to walk away from money, fame, and Power 4 comfort zones might end up being remembered not as a step down, but as the moment he finally took control of his career. And if this season goes the way he believes it will, don't be surprised if the same people who were shocked by his decision are talking about him again next February, for a very different reason.